Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How Homeland Security Uses Risk Visualization to Protect Critical Infrastructure and Borders, presented to you today by IDV Solutions and Jeff Friedland from the Department of Homeland Security. We're going to begin in just a few minutes here. I just want to wait for a few more people to jump on. So while we're waiting for other attendees to join us, I just wanted to mention some upcoming events that IDV will be attending in the near future. We will again be at ISC West in April, and also a few ASIS events in March and April, and GovSec in May. So after today's webinar, if you have other questions or you would like to see a more in-depth demo and you're attending one of those events, please feel free to stop by our booth. Our booth numbers, you will be able to find those on our IDV website, idvsolutions.com. Quick, I just wanted to mention that we would love to answer questions that you may have during today's webinar. So please feel free to ask those by just submitting those in the question panel. That should be located in the lower right-hand corner of your monitor. So throughout the presentation today, if you submit those there at the end of the webinar, if we have a few minutes, we'll be happy to answer those questions. And if there are some that we don't get to, we'll answer those individually via email. All right, so it looks like we have a few more people jumping on, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And welcome to today's webinar, How Homeland Security Uses Risk Visualization to Protect Critical Infrastructure and Borders. Again, presented by IDV Solutions and Jeff Friedland from the Department of Homeland Security. My name is Krista Bailey. I'm with IDV Solutions, and I'm going to be moderating today's webinar. We're going to start off from hearing from MG Karsh from IDV Solutions, and MG is going to be giving us an overview of who IDV Solutions is and tell you a little bit about our enterprise risk visualization solution that we offer. After that, we'll be hearing from Jeff Friedland about the challenges that the Department of Homeland Security faces and how they are currently using risk visualization technology on a day-to-day basis to manage those challenges. And then again, at the end of that presentation, we'll open it up for some questions and answers that Jeff and MG will take for us. So we'll get started today, like I said, by hearing from MG, and just some background on MG. She is the Vice President of Federal Systems for IDV Solutions. She's a native to Washington, and she began her career as an analyst for the Department of State. She eventually crossed over into the private sector as an IT project manager and consultant. And after the events of 9/11, she had kind of an increased draw towards the security industry. So for the past 13 years, she's led successful implementations of innovative technologies such as video analytics and situational management systems on borders, seaports and airports, and across government facilities. MG is very active in the security industry, and she currently serves as the chairperson of Critical Infrastructure Protection Subcommittee for the Security Industry Association. So MG, if you're ready, I will turn things over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Krista. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate it. As we get started, I just want to give you a bit of background on IDV Solutions, as Krista said. Now, some of you may be more familiar with us than others on the call, but either way, I just want to give you a little perspective on what we're doing to create a whole new concept within the field of risk management, what we have coined as ERV, or Enterprise Risk Visualization. So, Krista, you can go ahead. Okay, great. Thank you. So IDV Solutions is an enterprise risk visualization, or ERV, software company. Our mission is to help government and private sector organizations identify, assess, and act to mitigate or eliminate potential risks to people, assets, and operations. We're founded in 2004, and we're based in Lansing, Michigan. We have representatives nationwide and a worldwide network of trained implementation partners. We're also a Microsoft Gold Certified Managed Partner. We're very proud of that relationship. They're also an important customer, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So IDV is a recognized leader in data visualization. We have some of the best and brightest guys on our team in this field, so it's literally in our DNA. And as you can see here, Our visual analyses, blogs, infographics, and other visualizations, they're featured in print, broadcast, online publications like National Geographic, Weather Channel, NASA.gov, and many others. So you may see us here and there. Okay. Krista, you can go ahead. So just a couple of comments on the next slide. Thank you. On our deployment. So IDV has successful deployments in virtually every industry across both private and public sector. I really don't have time to talk about all of these today, but as I mentioned, Microsoft is both a partner and a customer. They were a very early adopter of our technology, and they're using it on a global basis to protect personnel and facilities. IDV supports many types of public sector deployments. A few examples are shown here, and I know you're probably eager to hear from Jeff. Jeff, he's going to be providing a great overview of his project shortly. So just to reassure you, I think we have a little delay. Okay, Krista, you can proceed on. Okay. So just to reassure you that we have earned our pedigree, just want to note here that Visual Command Center and Visual Fusion, the visualization technology platform on which it's based, have each been recognized in the industry with a variety of awards and designations. Visual Command Center was honored last year for its contribution to safety and security by Computer World. Visual Fusion is Safety Act designated as a qualified anti-terrorism technology. And in 2007, the BP Hurricane Management System, created with Visual Fusion, was named as Computer World's Honors Laureate and won the 21st Century Achievement Award. Okay, so now let's take a few moments to talk about risk, how we're defining it for the purposes of this discussion, and what we can do to better manage it. DHS has gone to great lengths to establish a common understanding about risk. A quick search of risk on the DHS website produces a body of work that underscores the effort that has gone into qualifying, defining, and establishing a framework for managing risk within the greater Homeland Security community. These are just a few examples of that work, and I highly recommend reviewing these documents if you're not already familiar with them. So what is enterprise risk visualization, and how does it tie into my comments? ERV, in our opinion, is an enabling technology that promotes the goals and objectives of effective enterprise risk management. So as DHS defined, risk can be categorized as strategic, operational, or institutional. Examples of strategic risk could be executive protection and duty of care with regards to international travel. Weather can have profound effect on moving goods, services, or people to planned destinations or for disaster relief. And while threats to critical infrastructure pose enormous institutional threats, social media is an additional means of understanding potential institutional threats to people, reputations, and government. The visibility to all of the above is really needed. So ERV enables preemptive situational awareness by providing a means of literally seeing potential risks to an organization's assets prior to negative outcomes. ERV also enables a proactive view to risk by focusing attention on defined types of risk, providing visibility to how many assets and how far those assets are from the risk source. So personnel can mobilize appropriate plans and procedures to avert negative impact to their assets. And Jeff is going to show you exactly what this means in a real deployment. I know it's hard to see right now, but the screen that we're showing here, the screenshot, for example, shows a bomb threat on the University of Michigan campus and some sample routes and personnel inside the radius ring of that risk event. So continuing on, risk visualization provides a preemptive view to a much more complete picture than otherwise possible for all sorts of risk. At the macro level or global view, we can identify the overall picture of external risk, like weather and terrorist activity and how it impacts assets around the world. We can then zoom into regional or metro level, giving us additional detail, information, context, and understanding of what's happening around us. And then we can take it to a micro or a local level, such as city blocks, a corporate campus, public areas near government facility, for example, and then go even further to where internal sources of risk can be identified as well. Everything is real-time, interactive, clickable, selectable, and actionable. Lots of ables here. And if desired, the ERV system can even drill all the way down to a building floor plan and can be helpful in integrating SOPs, response plans, maybe for an evacuation. We can then even tie into outbound messaging systems like email and text messaging. The sum total capability enables a proactive response ahead of the actual event in many cases. So On the next slide, here's another view to look at identifying risk events or threats in a Venn diagram. We discussed that risk events fall into three main categories: strategic, operational, institutional, whether external or internal to our organization, and they are happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Central to the fundamentals of risk management is being able to clearly identify and prioritize what I care about or my assets. Assets can be defined as many of the items in this blue circle: people, citizens, employees, travelers, VIPs, etc., buildings, including equipment, inventory, systems, infrastructure, areas of interest like no-fly zones, supply chains, events, even things like an inaugural parade, a presidential motorcade, or other national security events like the Super Bowl. So where a risk event intersects with an asset, this is a threat, which then triggers an alert. A great example of this concept is exactly how Microsoft uses Visual Command Center to help protect its personnel and facilities. So with over 700 facilities around the world and 183,000 personnel, they face so many sources of risk. They use Visual Command Center to determine where the risks are relative to their people and facilities, whether it's an earthquake, a riot, or a threat of terrorism. Okay, so how do we do this? So IDV has gone to great pains to investigate the best sources of risk data and integrate those into our platform. This slide gives a broad brush overview of the risk categories we work with. Out of the box, we can generate visualizations from over 100 sources of different risk feeds. They're bundled, pre-configured for that micro to metro, macro level situational awareness thing. Okay, so I'm not going to go into each of these categories, but just for an example, with weather, we provide 26 different types of weather, both current and forecasted. Of course, terrorism, civil unrest, current events, disease, etc., hazardous materials, the chem bio stuff. And then with traffic conditions, we're bringing in live traffic feeds from traffic land cameras wherever they are around the world. So in addition, we've got extended sources of risk that can be connected, literally connected, to uniquely extend the power of Visual Command Center and integrate with and visualize internal enterprise systems and deliver a complete big picture of all the risks. These can include risks that are derived from social media, like Twitter visualization to get an instant pulse on the news and events that are occurring. Operations, risks that could occur due to breakdowns of critical equipment, outages, processes, asset tracking, etc. Security systems, and this is risk that's populated up from access control, video, license plate readers, and other such systems. What we have found is that in many cases, our customers are dealing with similar challenges. I would venture to guess that most or all of you have experienced these challenges firsthand. They have lacked a complete picture of sources of risk to the organization. They have, in many cases, they have some pieces or even several pieces, but they're often disparate and not integrated in a way that will give them a holistic view or a common operating picture. Now, the guy in this picture, the poor kid here, this is actually the before picture of the Microsoft Command Center, what they call their GSOC. He looks a lot better these days, I can assure you. So many of them also felt that new technology could provide useful data, but it was expensive and time-consuming. They also felt that they were kind of stuck in a reactive mode. They could see opportunities to be more proactive and to get out of day-to-day handling of risk and get out ahead of it, but they didn't know how to get there. So one of the biggest challenges our customers face in these and other factors we just talked about is really that the value of the security and the risk teams that they're bringing is confined. Almost everyone needs to find ways to contribute value beyond their department and leadership. So our customers have found that with our ERV platform, with Visual Command Center, that it helps them to be more informed about the situation by integrating external and internal sources of risk. It helps them to be more proactive by addressing threats rather than waiting to respond to a situation. And this has become key to mitigating risk to the organization and reducing program costs. The Visual Command Center has enabled the transformation of data into risk and security intelligence for the organization. And it's helped the security and risk management organization bring thought leadership and bring a holistic view of risk to the entire organization, so therefore contributing that value beyond their departments. And lastly, we've got one more slide, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeff here. In terms of business justification, our customers report that with ERV, with Visual Command Center, they've helped their security and risk teams to accomplish their mission goals and deliver operational excellence. So how do they do that? Customers have reported enhanced levels of situational awareness. So teams are better informed. They're transforming data from disparate systems into security and risk intelligence. The team is in the loop, and they have just a better visual pulse on the organization's risk. With real-time visual intelligence, security teams report being more engaged in proactively addressing that risk rather than waiting for alarms to sound. They can see things like a hurricane approaching, immediately see and more quickly assess the impact to people and facilities and help prepare the organization. The quality and speed of decision-making is also improved. Data can be more easily accessed and understood, and action more easily taken. Interfunctional coordination, this is huge, has also been improved. Data isn't siloed anymore. It can be shared and leveraged among many different stakeholders across many internal as well as external agencies. So at this point, Jeff's presentation is really going to highlight this point. I don't want to belabor it. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it back over to Krista and Jeff, and thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentation.
All right, thanks a lot, MG. So yes, our next presenter is Jeff Friedland, the Director of Emergency Management, Homeland Security for St. Clair County. And again, I'm just going to give a quick background of Jeff. Jeff has held this position since 1988. He's been involved in the field of emergency services for his entire career, and he's had the opportunity to serve as president to 2 statewide organizations, both the Michigan Emergency Management Association and the Michigan State Firemen's Association. Also, he has served 2 terms as the chair of the Southeast Michigan-Detroit Urban Area Security Initiative Board. In 2007, the Department of Homeland Security appointed Jeff to a newly created state, local, tribal, and territorial government coordinating council for critical infrastructure. Jeff is an accomplished industry leader, and he's coming to us with 25 years of experience and expertise. So we're really excited that Jeff could join us today for our webinar. So if you're ready, I am going to give you control, Jeff, and let you get started with your part of the presentation.
Thanks, Krista. Presentation up and visible?
Not quite yet. Yes.
Okay. First and foremost, I appreciate the opportunity to share our experiences and our rewards with all the people online viewing this. One of the most important things we got to put forward is what is St. Clair County, because if you were to Google it, I don't think you'd be overly impressed. So what I'd like to do is take a few minutes and show the participants exactly why we ended up where we did. And St. Clair County is located in Michigan. It's on the east side. It is where Lake Huron empties into the St. Clair River. We do have 110 miles of border with Lambton County and Essex County, Ontario. So we're an international region, and we work together as a community with a river that runs through it. The border is actually the St. Clair River. It's about 300 yards, and instead of dealing with a neighboring city or a neighboring county, as most people do, we actually have to deal with a foreign country, which presents a lot of challenges. But we are the Blue Water region, and as I say, we've got a tremendous working relationship. Why we are more important? We represent really trillions of dollars to 2 countries' economies. A lot of it is transportation, or a lot of it is located on either side of the border, and a lot of it, thank goodness, is on the Canadian side and not ours. But once again, we're a small community, but we have a lot of critical infrastructure that you'll be seeing as we go along. So our first challenge is the Blue Water bridges. It's the #1 entry point of hazardous materials between Canada and Michigan. And between that and the rail that I'll talk about very shortly, we get 47 million pounds a day of chemicals transported through our communities. It's the #2 entry point in the entire United States for hazardous materials, second busiest northern border crossing, third busiest the entire North American continent, and certainly presents challenges, especially at times excessive gridlock and potential for incidents on either side of the border. We've got the CN Rail Tunnel. That was rebuilt in 1995. It now basically allows double-deck cargo containers to be brought by rail between the two countries. The rail yard in Sarnia, once again, 300 yards across the border, basically is the largest rail yard handling hazardous materials in Ontario, in the Great Lakes region. You have to realize that any train that crosses through that tunnel has to stop on the other side for customs and inspections. And that presents a lot of potential problems because you have cars of chemicals and other goods sitting idle for a period of time. And with the world today and in security issues, it's a potential release target that would jeopardize just many, many lives. I kind of wanted to put up this map of the transportation corridor. This is probably 15 years old. I haven't been able to find another one. But if you look in Michigan, you'll see a big black blob. And that basically leads into our county and then disperses down towards Detroit, out through Flint, and a lot of it goes to Chicago, and a lot of it goes down south and over to the east. It's just reinforcing the amount of transit and truck traffic and rail traffic that we have coming through this county. Being 160,000 people and without a large tax base, our resources are extremely limited. Due to the volume of hazardous materials, we do have a hazardous materials response team, but it is volunteer. We struggle to maintain the team financially because we just, the way the Michigan economy has been, we've taken a loss in general fund money, and we've been able to utilize some grants. But that team is fairly active. They're called out 3, 4, 5 times a month. A lot of it is transportation. When we look at what's across the border, and as I say, this is a Canadian issue, but being 300 yards away, this is also our county's issue. Traditionally, it's been called Chemical Valley. It's really situated. It's a large number of chemical facilities that basically have common fence lines, and those facilities the grouping actually ends up within 2 municipalities over there, one being the city of Sarnia and the other being St. Clair Township. They do have an organized organization where the members work with local government and the responders. That way people try to be on the same page, but quite often regulations, whether it's on the private sector or the public sector, kind of interfere with each other. But through the years, the number of releases from these facilities, either into the air or into the St. Clair River, is quite extensive as far as numbers. So that poses a significant problem. And when you look at, when we get into our resilient project, you'll see how we're using some of this, our tools, to also address some of the Canadian issues. Pipelines between Ontario and Michigan that runs through Lambton County and St. Clair County. I have this slide as 30 pipelines. Recently I had a meeting with Customs and Border Protection
and they were doing an investigation, and they wanted to know how many pipelines in the list we had. And when I said we have approximately 30, they said, well, we're already at 45 in your area. So there are pipelines where we're not aware of or abandoned, but the potential is still there. We've got 12 water filtration plants in the region. The largest one services the City of Detroit water system, which is about a 1.1 million users. That system goes west to Flint and then down into the suburbs and into the city. When you consider all the industry on the Canadian side, all those facilities also have water intake. So all along the east side of our county are communities that have water plants, and they rely on river, St. Clair River water that they treat, and they use that for food, families, the industry, the whole gamut. So in the event of a contamination event, that's going to have a serious effect on critical infrastructure. And I also might mention we also have two other border crossings. We have ferries that run the south end of our county, that area. And one of the ferries do carry hazardous material transportation trucks. So when you think of attacks like occurred on the USS Cole, where it was a small craft that with the explosives that moved into a larger craft and exploded. We've got the potential for someone to commandeer a ferry that's loaded with propane or other substances and actually use that for weapons. So in our platform, those are things we consider in some of our planning, things like that. 8 power generating facilities in the Blue Water region. Services most of southeastern Michigan and services a lot of southwest Ontario, Lambton County area. So that is vital to maintain any type of critical infrastructure and to keep commerce moving. As we work towards the how we're using the platform, to give you some ideas of the cooperation in the existing planning that between Lambton County, St. Clair County is we now coordinate our siren testing. Both areas have gone to, when the siren sounds, take shelter immediately. We've gotten away from the fire sirens. We've changed from a tornado risk base to a combination chemical severe weather. So our message is to go inside, turn on local media. We have a cross-border alerting network now, where either side can set off the other side's alert monitors. That's the Alert FM program. We're in the process of drafting a mutual aid MOU. The difficulty here is, by law, this has to be approved by Congress. Congress recently has allowed the state in Ontario to have discussions along with the other Great Lakes states. But at this point, Ontario has not signed on to the kind of the statewide mutual aid agreement. Those are for large-scale incidents. When we look at incidents, we look at running fire trucks or ambulances back and forth every day. Those are the events that we need mutual aid for. It's not the big one. Certainly if the big one occurs, we're all in trouble, but that is not understood at the higher levels. They think that the only need to go back and forth is large-scale events. The Canadians have implemented a mass notification system. We're looking at piggybacking and doing the same system here. We're dealing with 2 different sales reps, and our discussion is, okay, you've got programs in 2 countries, how do we integrate them into one system? And we've done joint exercises and training, so there's a good working relationship. Now, getting to the meat and potatoes, I hope you understand a little bit more is why St. Clair County is critical and why we ended up as a pilot site. In one of the meetings I was in Washington, there was a presentation of virtual cities, and after the meeting, I introduced myself to the presenter from the Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology, and I said, hey, are you interested in a Canadian project? Because he had presented the virtual cities, and he said, yeah, we could be. You know, never really thought about it. And then his next question is, but you know, we don't have any money in our budget right now, so we really can't do anything. And I said, hey, I understand. You know, that's the normal, go away thing. And he said, hey, if we ever get some money, I'll give you a call. And I said, okay, yeah, you know how that is. But lo and behold, about 4 or 5 months later, they called and they said, would you be interested in the virtual cities pilot? And I said, yes, under 2 conditions. I said, very simple is, I want a platform where my staff can do 98% of the work. I don't want to have to go back to the vendor every time I want to change. I don't want to have my IT department camped out at our facility doing all this work. I want it simple to use. And they said, all right, okay, what's the second one? And I said, I want something that's sustainable. At the end of the pilot, I don't want you to walk away and I'm saddled with a tremendous annual cost to keep this platform going. And they said, hey, we can do that. And they said, oh, by the way, we would like to partner with a Michigan company, being IDV. And so, we're in Michigan, IDV is in Michigan. To me, that's a win-win. DHS has said they will meet our 2 conditions. We were in. So basically, we have a case study about the program, and this is a slide we use a lot. The insert in it just basically identifies some of the facilities from layers on both sides of the river. As I said, we're trying to make this as user-friendly, whether it's your neighbor county or whether it's your neighbor county in a foreign country. So together, we took off on about a 2-year project, a little over 2 years. It was Science and Technology out of DHS. It was SPAWAR, and it was IDV Solutions. And they spent a lot of time here. They were great to work with. What was nice is they continued to say, what would you like? How do you want this to work? It wasn't a one-size-fits-all, here, take it, and we'll try to make it adaptable to what you want to do. We actually had the input to drive the project. We call it Resilient, the Regional Interoperability Collaboration Network. And short of that is Resilient. And the first slide is what we value a lot. That shows active incidents. If you can look, there's some icons. In those icons, we clicked on one, and it was a fire-related incident. If you look on the right side, it'll give the CAD notes. Those are available almost immediately to the responders, to people that are logged into Resilient. So they're seeing what's happening, within a minute or so. And that's important to alleviate. Number one is a lot of calls to say, hey, what's going on? What's going on? We're able to see the CAD notes. I think that's critical. If you look at the next slide, not only do we keep track of active incidents, but we have the potential of closed incidents. And we can put those up as icons, or if you look at the bottom, by hour, there is a series of icons. Those are closed events that we can click on. We have record keeping. We can search. If we want to look at just the breaking and enterings, we can search and filter that. So we display on the map breaking and entering, say between 11 at night and 4 in the morning. Where are the breaking and enterings occurring? That allows our law enforcement community to do analyze of where are the events occurring during certain periods of time. There's no sense having, vehicles in one area when the risk in actual occurrences are occurring in other areas. So this allows for planning for effective placement of vehicles, and this may shift. When it goes to 9 o'clock in the morning, between 9 and 11, we may be seeing another trend occurring, and then we move our law enforcement vehicles down more into those areas. A lot of benefit to this, especially in the planning process. One of the initiatives that we're very proud of is we've developed a countywide school planning project. Every school in St. Clair County, we have their floor diagrams. We can take our cursor and hover over any room. It will tell you what that room is. We have points on the map. We've taken entry-exit doors. We've taken electrical panels, water shutoffs, items of interest, and we've taken the pictures and tied it to a point on a map. So when a responder is coming on location, it may be the original community responder, or it may be someone from a mutual aid. But they're able to look at the plan. If the team is going in to shut off the water, say the school facilities manager is outside, he can show them the picture and say, okay, you want to turn this, then you want to turn that, and you want to turn that. Then that team can go in. They know what it looks like in advance. They're already shown on how to shut it down. And it's just good business. I mean, rather than trying to go in the dark, not knowing the layout of the building. And we've also taken one school and actually did the 360-degree tour throughout the entire building, but that is somewhat labor intensive, and we really haven't expanded that. The next slide is, everybody I hope is familiar with the SARA Title III. We are charged with planning for those sites in our county, excuse me, which fall under Title III, extremely hazardous substances storage. Our approach is we identify what's the most probable scenario, and we identify the worst case. When you look here, there's two rings. The inner is the most probable. The worst is the worst case as far as entire radius. Once again, you have to look at weather conditions. Shortly we'll be able to put a plume on this and then be able to narrow down the total, the critical area that may be affected by a chemical release. However, with the different layers, we can also identify other facilities such as daycares, medical clinics, people with special needs that may be in that plume. If you look over on the right, it basically tells the responder that, hey, if you're going there, the worst case scenario chemical is nitric acid, and here are the risk areas. It tells you how much of the substance is on site. And if we take our SARA Title III step plan actually a step further, which is the next slide, it also ties our written plan, basically the facility information, the contacts, equipment, other chemicals on site. You can actually click on that facility and get our plan. The example here is you can also click on that facility and get a diagram of their sprinkler system. This is really vital for the responding firefighters. It also shows you there that it identifies a daycare, a couple daycares. So once again, you can begin identifying, even in your pre-planning, what facilities are in that risk area. And if you know that you have 27 critical facilities within that risk area, you can already plan on how to contact those. If you click on the daycare facility, you will have the contact information and really the data on that facility, so you have it at your fingertips. And sometimes early morning hours, that's a benefit. And or when they're occupied, it's a benefit. A couple examples we would like to demonstrate here. This was an exercise as far as some IED suspicious devices. But what we want to point out too is if you look on kind of the right, you'll see a lot of icons on the Lambton County, the Canadian side. That is data for facilities in Lambton County and Sarnia. Once again, there is data tied to that where technically we could click on that and have some form of information on those facilities. There's other things that are identified on the St. Clair County side, but during this incident, this is it's a whiteboard approach where you can take the platform, you can then turn it into a whiteboard for the incident commander, and that's his basically board to operate off. It doesn't really interfere with other views of other people using the system, but he's able to mark where he's placing his vehicles for access control. He can mark different actions being taken. He can show areas that may have been evacuated. You could put a plume dispersion up there. And he can take this and then immediately send it to other users he may want to share to say, hey, this is what's going on at this instant. Not everybody needs to know everything, but there are key people that have to have the views. And it may go back to an emergency coordination center. It could go back to the emergency operations center. You have to realize that also if the emergency operations center is activated, we may be looking at something totally different. We may be looking at various layers that the incident commander is not worried about. The incident commander is worried about mitigating that incident, where the EOC is now looking at, okay, what's within the area and what actions have to be taken to evacuate those people or other types of things. So once again, for pre-planning and also response, it's an excellent tool. We have partnered with Lapeer County, which is directly west to us, and we have actually allowed them to be part of the program. We have it set up where they basically view their data and we view our data, and we're trying to set it up where the Canadians would just view their data, yet at some point we can integrate if necessary. If things cross boundary lines, then it's relevant for more than one emergency operations center to be viewing the incident. That can be done. So this just basically identifies some of Lapeer County. You know, they've got law enforcement, they've got fire, EMS layer, hospitals, their schools, their sirens. And once again, they control the layers they want on. We have buoys, automatic data coming from buoys out in the lake and the river. Gives us wind direction, water temperature, and that's something that's very vital to us because we do a lot of water rescue and water response. But for like Lapeer County, they have no interest in buoys because they don't have these bodies of water, or buoys would provide them really no information. So they wouldn't have that layer. So what I like is the flexibility to create and adapt basically how you want to go. The last slide, we had an opportunity to work with the Michigan National Guard. They had been doing a pilot project called MCAP, and we had Resilient, and we got talking one day and said, let's do an exercise, and let's try to integrate the two platforms. So we got the tech geeks together, and we went back and forth, we experimented, and at the end of the day, we had an exercise down in the St. Clair area where we initiated it on our Resilient program. With our tie-in to MCAP, we were able to request the assistance of the 51st Civil Support Team we were able to automatically send them that request. They use their system to activate their personnel, and as their personnel acknowledged the response, we began to track them. And if you look at this slide, you'll see over on the left side, you'll see a couple icons. Those are actually National Guard units en route to our exercise. So we've integrated the two. And at the same time, their command post, where they have MCAP, can also follow resilience. So they're following our incident. We don't have to provide them updates. They don't have to provide us updates on their ETA and things like that. So when we all got on location, and it just worked out really good. So we now know the platform does have the capability of interacting with other platforms. And I think in today's world, I'm not a fan of one size fits all. I think you need the tool that best fits your community and your goals and your needs. However, no one community can handle a large-scale event. So you have to have the ability to exchange and interconnect with other platforms. And I think that we have demonstrated that, and we're toying with a couple other thoughts. And, you know, I could go on with other slides and show you all our layers, but a layer is a layer. And at the end of the day, the two goals I need to stress that I requested is our staff is doing 98% of the input into this. I've got a great person. Her name's Nikki Falk. She just puts everything in it. Lapeer County's putting it in. And when it came time, when the pilot ended, and we were kind of on our own with IDV, the sustainment costs were very fair in regards to the product we have. And we are very pleased, and it is making a difference. It's been used a few times now, documented well on some events, and we continue to have it grow. And to be honest with you, we kind of slowed down a little bit, and we've taken some time to say, okay, now we got this up and running. Let's really look at it. And we started looking at our layers, and do we really need the congressional districts? No. Do we need X, or do we need Y, or do we need tattoo parlors? Some of the information, because it's so simple to put in, we just piled it in to see what the system could hold. We wanted to push the boundaries. Now we're going saying, okay, we can take some of this out because it's not necessary. And once again, taking it out is just as easy as putting it in. So with that, I'm open to questions. I'd like to share.
All right, Jeff. Thanks a lot. We appreciate your time and you sharing Resilient and how it's used. Let me get my slides back up. All right, so again, we have about 10 minutes for a few questions, and I see we already have a few coming in. Again, if you have questions, just go to the GoToMeeting Council and enter them in. Again, we'll take as many as we can now, and if there are some that we don't get to today, then we'll respond to those at another time via email. So let's see, Jeff, it looks like the first question that we had come in will be a good one for you to answer. They're wondering how you're capturing the data in Resilient and how you maintain that data. So if you want to go ahead and answer that, that would be great.
That's easy. The system is basically utilizing feeds or data from Excel spreadsheets or KML, and it's easy to upload. You get the information in, and the way we're maintaining it is basically we are getting the Excel spreadsheets from other agencies. We have them update the sheets and provide it to us, so we're not the manager. We're not the, we're not going out every month trying to update information. We're relying on the people that already keep the information. I mean, they've got it. What this process takes their file cabinets and combines them with everybody else's file cabinet for everybody to use instead of just one agency.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see. It looks like the next question would be a good one for you to answer, MG. The question is, they're wondering the difference between the enterprise risk visualization product that we offer and a PSIM. So I guess they're just wanting a clear understanding of the difference in the capabilities.
Right. Okay, great. Sure. So I actually came from that space, the PSIM space, before joining IDV. And, you know, I was very attracted to this technology because of the ability to kind of move beyond the four walls of a facility or within a, you know, a group of facilities. I saw this and I said, yeah, I truly believe that there's a great story here in the sense that what we are, you know, and I hope, you know, our listeners have been able to see this today, that, you know, this type of technology is focused much more on the big picture, whereas, you know, the PSIMs definitely serve a purpose as products are really helping to tie together legacy security systems, but those systems are dealing primarily with the actual sensor data and the particulars of, you know, what happens when the lights start flashing, what do we need to do, you know, kind of following through those procedures. Mainly, you know, stuff that's happening, again, within a very limited or localized set of locations. So, you know, for our view, again, it is very much more of the entire campus, as Jeff has shown, a municipality, a whole state, a region, global, and so forth. So we're concerned about everything that's, you know, that could possibly happen or be going wrong related to critical assets before those sensors start going into alarm mode, hopefully. So anyway, I think the technologies are very complementary. I would say that they can definitely coexist and integrate. We've started looking at that. But, you know, they serve very different purposes. We're sort of at the front end of the life cycle, I would say, more or less, you know, in terms of aggregating a lot of risk data. And they're at the point of something has happened and, you know, certain things have to be done to comply with regulatory procedures or whatever. So we're addressing threats and risks, whereas the people are dealing with the incidents more or less after. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Jeff, this is another one I think that you could handle. If they're wondering how Resilient has improved your planning process and improved the way you respond.
Well, planning is really a plus because, especially on the chemical side of things, we're able to, as I stated, determine our risk areas. We can determine what type of facilities are in there, and then we can target education. Number one is to those types of facilities within that risk area. Rather than just do a blanket county-wide education program on chemicals, we can target our education to specific areas. And once again, if it's a high crime, we're seeing a lot of crime in the area, we can focus our efforts for education and planning and all that. And what you know, when you talk about response to, and you know, I only touched on some of the layers. I mean, you can get video feeds in. We've got weather radar. As we're under storm warnings, we watch the radar come in. As it's coming into the county, all of a sudden our incidents are starting to show on the board. So we have an idea of what this storm is actually causing, whether it's wires down, trees down, alarms. We can identify that, and now we're building to the point where we want to tie social media into it, where the residents, if they're seeing pictures or they're getting storm damage, they can send those. We can pinpoint those on the map, and for responders, it gives us a much clearer picture. Instead of sending, you know, 27 fire trucks, we know that this one only needs one. So we're harnessing the first responders, which are the public, to assist the emergency responders, and we give a better, cost-effective response.
Okay, great, Jeff. MG, I see one about social media. They're wondering how we're using Twitter as a data feed. I know you touched on that a little during your presentation, but maybe you can dive a little deeper into that.
Okay, sure. Right, so by the way, folks, just as a point of reference, a few months back we did a whole webinar on the uses of social media and the importance of social media as a intelligence gathering and security source. So I would refer you to our YouTube page. You can find the link right on idvsolutions.com and go right to our YouTube page, and there's lots of great information there, and you'll find that webinar recorded. This is one of the data feeds that I really love working with because it is so real time, and you really get to see sentiment and just what people are experiencing and thinking in the moment. And I love how it really is actually helping customers garnish that real-time security intelligence. We had an event, one of those classic stories where in the middle of a meeting, we were actually working with a customer who was looking at their facilities in Philadelphia, and just as with just luck had it, I guess, or not so lucky, at that particular moment, a building collapsed, and it collapsed right near where they actually had their own personnel, a building of their own. So, you know, that was it. You know, case closed. They were just so intrigued with the fact that they knew about that event before it even showed up on CNN or there were reports going. So that's incredibly important. And we've also got, you know, law enforcement looking very closely, as I'm sure everyone's aware, that, you know, bad guys are active on social media too. So it's all kinds of interesting things going on. But in any event, what we do is we have created a connector to the public Twitter feed, the streaming API. And so we're able to essentially ingest those tweets real time, taking the geographic information. If people haven't turned off that feature, your tweets are time-stamped and location stamped. And there's all sorts of information behind that tweet. And again, referring back to that wonderful webinar, you'll see lots and lots of information about what actually is in a tweet. So we take that information and we're able to place those geo-referenced tweets on the map, in the timeline, et cetera. And so when you work with IDV and if you select the Twitter feed as part of your system, that's what you get, as well as the database of all the stored tweets and, within a time frame, and then the user interface, of course, and so forth. Tweets can be searched by categories that we have created and that are part of the system for environment, violence, emergencies, et cetera. And then we've also built in a variety of search terms. You can actually free-form that and put full text in and search on, you know, whatever criteria, gang language, you know, whatever your insights might be about that. I guess I'll leave you with this thought. We are always looking at it and thinking about it, how we can improve it. And we have developers right now who are doing some really state-of-the-art analytic development for tweets. We've got something in the works we're calling Quorum, and the idea there is that, you know, if a high number of tweets on the same topic in close proximity, you know, take those criteria, are detected, and then they would generate a unique elevated type alert, you know, bringing attention to the fact that, oh, everybody's, you know, tweeting about the Boston or you know, some other event. So it's amazing technology, and you know, we can go on and on about to talk about that further if anybody needs more information.
All right, excellent, MG. Thank you so much. So it looks like we are out of time, and sorry if we weren't able to answer your question, but we will respond to those. As I said earlier, we'll get an email out and answering all of those questions. So thanks again for attending today's webinar. We appreciate the time you've given us this afternoon. For more information, feel free to reach out to any of us at IDV Solutions. There's some contact information there, or you can also learn more from the IDV Solutions website, idvsolutions.com. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us on this webinar today, and have a great day.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.